Okay, how many times do you say that? Ta 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 ti pa pam, ta 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 ti pa pam, ta 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 pam. Right? Okay, do you love your mother? Okay, how many times do you tell her, I love you, Mom? Huh? Sometimes only? Or what's the term? Saranghe. Am I correct? Sarangheyo. Okay. If you had to say to your mother 3 times, sarangheyo, 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 would she believe you? Ah, same thing here. Okay? There are 3 of the same statement. Change it. Ma, oma, sarangheyo, sarangheyo, sarangheyo. All right? Sarangheyo too, man.
Greetings, my name is Raul Kines, founder and director of NOW Music and Arts, which provides artists a platform to exhibit and perform their work. It lends hand to their creative pursuit during these troubled times shaped by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the racial and social tensions that have set our country and world on edge. Since the beginning of time, humans have transcended civilizations through their art, and I feel that it is our collective duty as a society to assure their voices are heard in the days ahead. Inherently traversing the unknown and unrelenting challenges before them, artists bring forth light, joy, and sense of purpose to our community. On June 20th, we launched our first Music and Arts Salon on Zoom, with 11 international artists from multiple disciplines representing the United States, Spain, and South Africa. The songwriters, composers, dancer, choreographer, painter, cellist, rapper, and chef presented inspired video narratives and live music performances. Since then, we've live streamed two more salon events, July 23rd and August 29th, with over a dozen continental artists on our NOW Music and Arts YouTube channel. In just 3 months, we've featured 24 acts from around the globe. And to close this year and usher in 2021 on a good note, we've booked 18 more international artists to perform on September 25, October 24th, and December 19. And on November 21st, we will launch the NOW concert series with the critically acclaimed concert pianist from the Philippines, Jovianney Emmanuel Cruz. We've set our bar high, staging some of today's best talents on our multifaceted platform. However, we cannot carry on this unique and worthy endeavor alone. We need you. With your partnership as donor, we can help transform our severely affected music and arts community. Together, we can avail our stage for the next artists and continue to provide high-fidelity entertainment for our growing number of viewers at home. A sliver of light that lends itself to balance and normalize day-to-day living during these calamitous times. Our goal is to raise $6,500 by the end of December. By doing so, we will be able to respectably compensate our featured artists, pay for our subscription and licensing fees, as well as defray our costs in audio and video equipment, streaming accessories, advertising, marketing, production, and so on. Since our first show in June, we've gainfully made new and what I hope to be long-lasting relationships with our viewers. Now, we hope to gain your trust and support. We love what we do. It is evident in our art, and this incredible journey comes back in full circle with you on board. Your generosity goes a long way. It will help keep our lights on and our vision alive. Together, we can continue to transform the lives of our brothers and sisters, parents and children, mentors and neighbors in our community. Please visit www.nowmusicarts.com and donate today. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Your mom did great, and Dad too.
Ciao.
You first. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to the NOW Music and Arts YouTube channel. NOW is an acronym short for New Old World. My name is Raul Salamanca Quines. I am an immigrant Filipino-American composer, songwriter, and founding director of this unique project and platform for artists serving our music and arts community. I am your host this evening. This is our fifth installation presenting such a diverse program. And tonight will consist of music, film, painting, and poetry. Now we are using Zoom and live streaming on YouTube. And because of the unpredictable nature of Zoom in how it processes audio primarily and video as well, we are presenting pre-recorded video clips this evening. In the event that Zoom crashes, please bear with us and we'll log back on and pick up from where we left off. Now, just a couple of more things. In light of everything that's going on, I just want to address some of our concerns here. We are treading through unfamiliar grounds during these calamitous times. While some of us may feel unsettled and perhaps even sickened by the alarming news that we see and read about and the challenges that lie ahead, this is a great opportunity for us all to be more mindful, take ownership of our actions, stand up for what is right, make a difference in our society, and take care of our brothers and sisters, and make peace. Make peace. I look forward to us working collectively to make the much needed social changes, helping raise our children in the world that embraces diversity, sustaining our environment, and helping create opportunities for our communities. Through art, we can continue to make a positive impact. Art has no boundaries, nor prejudices. It is about creating and building things anew, about bridging people, connecting people through spoken words, dance, and music, and so on. This is our offering to you this evening. That said, we are excited to showcase the works of 4 gifted artists from the United States. So let's get the show started. Leading off, this all-American lineup hails from Hudson Valley. Anybody from Hudson Valley? Woot, woot. David Albert Temple. He is a guitarist and composer, a graduate of the music school at Eastern Michigan University, and is a founding member of the Mid-Hudson Classical Guitar Society. His original instrumental work has been used in film and television. In his musical theater collaboration with playwright Rosary O'Neill and director Deborah Temple, brought his work to the Arthur Celine Theater on Times Square. In 2019, he performed Rodrigo's Aranjuez Guitar Concerto with the Northern Duchess Symphony Orchestra. As well, David teaches guitar theory and composition at Bard Conservatoire Preparatory Division. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, David Albert Temple. Bravo. Bravo, Mr. Temple. Ladies and gentlemen, David Temple. Those just tuning in, thank you for tuning in and welcome. Next artist is Lindell Brookhouse Gill here in New York City. She is a painter and designer. As a young artist, she was nurtured by the explorative downtown New York art scene in the 80s, creating performance art, graffiti, experimental music, paintings, and Afro-Cuban folkloric music. Lindell uses painting as a tool to inspire, communicate, investigate, and critique. Tonight, she presents a video narrative about her art exhibition and life experiences as an artist in residence in Boyle Heights, and in conjunction with an article she wrote just last month for the Boyle Heights Beat, a local publication in East LA. Ladies and gentlemen, Lindell Brookhouse Gill.
I'm Lindell Brookhouse Gill, and I'm a painter. And today I thought I would read an article I wrote for the Boyle Heights Beat about my residency in Boyle Heights, a neighborhood in East Los Angeles, and how it inspired my latest works. Contrary to New York's often vertical and building-obscured skies and a culture of overstimulation and instant access, I find the community in Boyle Heights laid back, friendly, and willing to have a conversation at the drop of a hat. I too love to converse, always curious as to what people have to say and how they flow. Every day I cherish LA's sunlit and blue skies, albeit when writing this, the skies are sadly smoke-filled. But mostly I've slowed down. This has allowed me time to reflect and discover some of the fabric of Boyle Heights. Because I don't own a car, I take slow bike rides through the community and discover visual references for my paintings and how people live and the community that supports the people and how they live their lives. Naturally, as a painter, I spend a lot of time on my own, but my community in Boyle Heights has made me feel welcome. I speak Spanish, have lived in Mexico, and have family there, so this probably helps my sense of appreciation for how special Boyle Heights is. But it's more than my feeling of a sense of familiarity. It is the people and the places they frequent. The cafe that I initially sought out to jump on their Wi-Fi quickly became a place to converse with a sculptor, librarian, designer, visual artist, waiter, teacher, musician, dog owner, and new parent. The cafe crew always leaves me with a question, deeper thought, or a smile on my face. The local neighbors from across the street, who heard through the grapevine that it was my birthday, surprised me with a cake, flowers, and a gift. I mean, who does that? Also, I know if I ever really needed them, they would be there for me no matter what. The swimming pool attendant who shared with me her love for drawing when she heard I was a painter became one of my loyal fans, and we still keep in touch. My daughter, who is a skateboarder, encouraged me to hang out at the local Hollenbeck skate park. She said that the regular crew that spent time there listened to music and were friendly. Initially, it was also a great way for me to be able to sit in the park in the evening with company as not to be by myself. Eventually, they offered me a refreshment as a gesture of kindness. After taking some photographs on a lovely evening, I composed and painted Hollenbeck Skate Park. After showing them the painting, I was celebrated and accepted into their evening hang. One of the skaters who heard I was drinking Cafe Bustelo as my coffee gifted me a delicious bag of locally roasted coffee, and on occasion we even shared some amazing tacos together. I now call this wonderful collection of incredible individuals friends, and they have made me contemplate and appreciate what community really is. Boyle Heights has allowed me the feeling that I am, in my own way, part of the community. What better way to show my appreciation for this community than to capture its speciality by painting it? An old school grocery store with the most fantastic paint job, done with such detail and care, it makes it pop out against the brightest of blue skies. El Tejano taco truck that feeds the people, and by the way, I'm a regular and their suadero is superb. The sunlit empty lot with a skyline of majestic palm trees and a view of downtown. George's pristine 60s signage representing a long tradition of pastrami and hamburger joints. The constant flow of ice cream trucks down Breed Street. The 1920s LA river bridges juxtaposed to an ever-present massive industrial infrastructure and, of course, blue sky. The neighborhood's contrasts are sometimes extreme. Beauty and care can also be contrasted with massive walls of cement that hold huge 8-lane highways built right over, quote, the prettiest park in Los Angeles, unquote. At least that's what the historical postcard said about Hollenbeck Park before the powers that be decided to construct Interstate 5 right through it. The neighborhood is a contrast of change. I guess change is all we know, and it is constant. I am inspired to honor this special moment and some of the people who live in Boyle Heights by painting it, immortalizing it, exhibiting it, and showing how beautiful even the most simple things can be through an artist's perspective. I exhibited my paintings on Saturday, September 26th, in my outdoor garden at 555 South Breed Street. I want to give a special shout out to Boyle Heights and thank you for sharing your magic. You can contact and get more information at Linda Lita Instagram, and website is www.lbgpaintings.com. Thank you for your time.
Ay, pobrecito, que le vaya, que le vaya, que le vaya muy bien.
Se me olvidó desde cuando perdí completa razón, Se me olvidó desde cuando.
Es por mal del corazón que estoy con mi verso errando. Se me olvidó desde cuando perdí completa razón.
Oye, vuelvo a comenzar, voy llegando a este lugar sin ti. Oye, vuelvo a comenzar sin saber cuándo estaré en el fin. Oye, vuelvo a comenzar, voy llegando a este lugar sin ti. Oye, vuelvo a comenzar sin saber cuándo estaré en el fin.
Bravo, Lindell. Bravo. Incredible, incredible work. You've been so prolific this whole year in spite of all this madness. That's really inspiring. Thank you so much. Next up is Angel Hogan, just out of Philly. She is a poet and filmmaker. She has performed as part of the Black Women's Arts Festival, Literary Deathmatch, Moonstone Presents, First Person Arts, and the Philadelphia Fringe Festival. Angel is interested in storytelling as a vehicle for tolerance, peace, and community building. Here is Angel Hogan with an excerpt from her new work, New Hobby. Angel Hogan.
Hi, this piece is an excerpt from a novella that's part of my MFA thesis at Drexel University. It's about Clark, an 80-year-old man taking his last leap at love. It opens with a poem. new hobby for Jim Corey. Annie Prue explained the idea for Brokeback came in a Wyoming cowboy bar. Two young studs shooting pool while an older wrangler slyly took them in. She began to imagine what brought him to that particular point. The result was the story. Maybe, too, he just loved open spaces, musky horse smell, the way the valley glows at dawn. A fall full of fruit trees, a VFW with little music but 55-cent Rolling Rock ponies. They serve chowder. A new rifle is raffled 5 times a year. You can get there by four-wheeler. No real glamour, but quakes, which anyone can play, sliding silver discs through the sawdust. It may have happened. The men stood eye to eye, contending with each other beyond a lifetime. It may have happened. The boys collected like Hummels and treasure were worthless, climbing out of an old pickup with a bad windows in a stretched out t-shirt. After saying never, saying maybe, talking loudly to the housewife bartender, it may have happened that one day he just decided to tell him how beautiful he is. Part 1. Clark leaned down and surveyed his feet. Dry, ashy, his smaller toes, strange pugilists gnarling towards one another in fight. For what? Scrambling to get off the island of the foot, which was quickly becoming hostile ground. Every joint ached. Each winter his brown skin got paler. His slim, supple body had withered significantly after 75, but he still felt solid. He pulled on his white tube socks, crackling and stiff from the line dry. Next, his full quill ostrich boots. They were hard as hell to get on, pinching his jumbled toes. It was worth the pain. Beauty costs, and tonight, of all nights, he was willing to pay. Standing, he looks in the dusty mirror propped against the loft bedroom wall of his tiny farmhouse. Scanning faded Levi's and a yellowing pearl-buttoned shirt, he brushes his white beard. This will have to do. With any luck, Jim would be at the club. On the edge of 30 years, Jim was tidy and laughed at Clark's crude jokes about the frazzled, over-perfumed barmaid. Is it possible that Clark is really that funny? It took weeks to work up the balls to buy Jim's drink, cheap as it was, a $2 Rolling Rock pony. After several rounds, Jim noted Clark's soda and lifted the can at a tilt with a teasing look. Babysitting tonight? Clark slumped, smoothing his palms along his jeans. For the first time in over a decade, he was nervous. Bafflingly, he began rambling on about hot dogs. Hot dogs? Was this flirting? I've been sober for almost 12 years. I don't crave alcohol so much anymore. Yet I do other things. Last week, it was hot dogs. Not one of those newfangled gourmet monstrosities they are pushing these days, but an old-fashioned wiener, preferably boiled to extinction and served on white bread with yellow mustard and ketchup. Not on a multigrain local artisanal loaf, not with tomato chutney and sriracha spread. Hot dog, mustard, ketchup, bun. Jim's eyes widened as he let out an unabashed snort. He was clearly surprised and delighted by Clark's confession. He gave a low snuffle with each inhale and laughed without abandon. He He put his pony down and briefly rested his head on the bar, still chuckling. From this view, Clark could see a cowlick near the nape of Jim's neck. It was slicked down with gel, but jutted forth endearingly. Clark gleamed with pride. With each joyous shake of Jim's laugh, Clark felt the years lifting away, the moths from the attic of his brain scattering. He felt relevant. Brazened by Jim's warm reception, Clark took a slightly more serious tone. Yes, sobriety is hard, but getting old is harder. Everything changes right before your eyes. Most of all, you. Jim nodded and absently reached for the stale barbecue peanuts while Clark arranged himself in his seat. He thought of those ridiculous cartoon faces with hearts for eyes. I am that freaking cartoon, he thought. My heart is in my eyes. Clark thought to say something about his father, now dead 30 years. His father, the only one in his family to make it through high school. The sole Black man to own property in the tiny Alabama town where Clark was raised. Furiously proud, any shortcomings from his offspring was a personal affront. His father, who came home early one afternoon and found Clark shirtless, shakily embracing another boy. Without allowing them to dress, his father growled, "Get in the truck." He drove them to the woods. Before the truck came to a stop, Clark's first lover slammed open the door. Directionless, the boy peeled off in blind fear, screeching. Clark's father rolled up his sleeves and silently beat Clark until his mind dimmed. When he woke, Clark was alone on the forest floor. He walked hours home and entered the quiet, dark house. Though just after midnight, his mother was bent over the dinner dishes, still in the sink. She turned from where she stood and wept. Clark lightly touched his pummeled face, feeling his eyes swelling shut. She would see the crust on his cheek, the paste of blood and dirt matting his hair. Clark imagined his father's knuckles scraped and bruised. His mother never missed a thing. He knew she thought she would never see her middle child again. He stumbled forward and let his tender, aching head rest on her neck. She smelled, as always, like hay and sweat. She held him briefly, then instructed he get out before his father killed him. A day later, he boarded his first train, heading alone to Chicago. He was 16. Thank you.
Angel Hogan. Angel Hogan, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wonderful passage. The text is so rich. My God, you can smell it and you can taste it. You know, hot dog, mustard, ketchup, bun. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Looking forward to the book. Yeah. If you are just tuning in, thank you. Welcome to the Now Music and Arts YouTube channel. We are down to our last act. We try to keep our program down to 1 hour. And before we go to Ian Phillips, I just want to say that we are going to have a Q&A after Ian's piece. So please think about something fun, something colorful, to ask the artists. All right, and we'll convene at that point. So Ian Phillips was born and raised in New York City and studied documentary filmmaking at the School of Visual Arts. His most recent feature documentary, titled Coach Jake, premiered at the Urban World Film Festival in September of 2017. His latest feature narrative film, A New York Christmas Wedding, which he produced and edited, premiered at the American Black Film Festival in August 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, Ian Phillips.
The new Brooklyn Library at Eastern Parkway. This new building has replaced the old one that stood on this side, and one of the most modern in the country. The Grand Army Memorial, a reminder of yesterday at the entrance of Prospect Park. The original construction of Prospect Park began in 1866 and continued until 1874. Each year something new is added, but nothing is ever taken away.
By definition, New York City is constantly changing. It's always been changing, and it's still changing as this is being filmed. Couldn't give away snow shovels this year because this is the third least amount of snow in recorded history for New York City this year. I'm going to have to oil these before I put them away in the basement for next season. I don't understand how and why window shades lost their popularity in New York City, but not too many people put shades on their windows anymore. Are we all exhibitionists? I don't know. So nails were once upon a time sold bulk, by the pound, weighing them accordingly, and then you would buy whatever it is that you needed. Well, that's no longer available. Now you have to buy it all in a 1 pound box. Things are constantly changing. I am born, bred, and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I was born in 1951. This is the year 2020 already. I have seen changes, and it's still changing, obviously. But right now, this particular neighborhood in Brooklyn, Prospect Heights, is not only the center of Brooklyn, it's the center of the 5 boroughs. But when I was a young boy, this neighborhood was terribly, terribly degenerating. Crime was rampant. Buildings were being neglected and abandoned. Then they became harborages for the petty thieves. The neighborhood was absolutely and positively neglected. So it degenerated. And then it stayed degenerated for an extremely long period of time. A local artist living in the area that I've befriended and I'm still very good friends with, I gave her a series of maybe 20 photographs of the avenue from Sterling Place on this corner to St. John's Place on that corner. And I told her that I wanted to paint what the avenue looked like because I knew that the avenue would eventually change. This is supposed to be myself coming out of the store. That's me. God rest his soul, this poor fellow died here in the store. This painting is dated from 1980. It even includes the purse snatcher, which was a common regular occurrence at that time. None of this exists anymore except for Mayday hardware. Even the sign is different because that sign became so bullet hole ridden that the sign literally fell off piece by piece off of the wall. It reminds me of just what it is that I had to live through because all of those bullet holes missed me. And then, of course, right now, it's become literally unaffordable for most. It has all of the things that anyone would want, which is why it's regentrified today to the point that it is. I'm going to answer that call. Hello, Mayday Hardware. Until this passes, Josh, there's no way that I'm going to do anything with keys for the time being. No shit, Sherlock. Of course. Thank you, Josh. You stay well yourself, and I'll speak to you when this pandemic passes, if and when it does. Thanks a lot, Josh. Okay, bye-bye. Okay. The year is 1964. Maybe it was 63. I'm 12 years old. Went to the parochial school directly around the corner and down the block. I had a shoe shine route up and down the adjacent Franklin Avenue. I would have a route that would take me from bar to bar to bar to bar with my little shoe shine kit and shine shoes. I was quickly identified by some local hooligans in the area as being the shoe shine boy. And they ran after me as I was walking up Sterling Place, the very adjacent block to here, and they were chasing after me to mug me for the coins that were most likely in my pocket. Well, to get out of harm's way, I ran into the first store that I could to just literally get out of harm's way. The man who owned this hardware store at that time, very large, heavy-set fellow, sees me come into the store, and he asks me, "Kid, what do you want?" And I pointed to the hooligans who were outside, and he said, "Well, those kids are trying to mug me." He says, "Well, you can't wait here." I said, "But mister, look at them." And they're outside taunting me to come out of the store. He said, "Well, if you're going to stay here, you're going to have to make yourself useful." And I looked quizzically at him, not understanding what it is exactly that he had meant. And he goes over to where the brooms are, and he takes a broom and he puts the broom in my hand. He says, "Sweep the floor." He says, "Whoa, you have a large store here. If I sweep your store, you're going to have to buy me a bottle of soda and a bag of chips." So I knew how to get a snack for myself after school every day. I had a job every day after school, during the summers, during college, as a young adult man, and now I own the place. Okay, welcome to the lower sanctum. This is the store beneath the store. Same size, of course, as the store up above, but this is what a real hardware store's working basement would look like. I have tools here that are older than I am, yet I still use them on a regular and ongoing basis. I'll show you something that you'll never see again, or that you probably have never seen yet, and that is a coal-burning furnace still operating. This very exact furnace, which I've named Old Betsy. Old Betsy's been through an awful lot. And she's still going, she's still humming. This furnace was probably built around 1904. And 20 years later, electricity finally came to this part of New York City. And Old Betsy is just strong as ever. When I first opened up this business, I had a partner, the very fellow that had put the broom in my hand so many years earlier. He and I joined together to purchase this property and store. He was Jewish, I'm Catholic, but he loved Christmas. He always enjoyed dressing up as Santa.
Hello, everybody. This is Santa Claus, down in Mayday Hardware's basement, where I have a secret workshop. Shh, don't tell Mrs. Claus. My secret stash of candy canes. Oh.
He would go up onto the roof of the building. We would call the fire department to rescue Santa Claus off of the roof. Truck would come from around the corner firehouse, put the hook and ladder up against the roof, and Santa would be rescued off of that roof. But after ownership together is 9 years, he passed away. But I still carry on the tradition of having Santa Claus come here year after year after year. Fire department regulations will not allow Santa Claus to be rescued off of the roof anymore. Things are always changing. I did find out subsequently later, as a more mature man, that this became a criminally sanctioned neighborhood. First, when Mayor Koch became mayor, he wanted to clean up Times Square. He didn't want the negative element to be in mid-Manhattan. He wanted them out of Manhattan, and where were they to go? Well, they chose areas like this. I've survived multiple riots.
It's one of the most controversial events in recent New York history. A car accident sent shockwaves through Crown Heights. 7-year-old Gavin Cato was killed.
I've survived a major fire here. I've survived other businesses being burned out here. Robberies, armed robberies, deaths of the merchants. And I've been able to do that through all of these years, now this being the year 2020. I am the pillar in this community. I've lived long enough to be a pillar in the community.
Hello. Do you have any plates, ma'am?
No, ma'am. Tomorrow. The kind that you want. The kind that you want.
Okay, and how much will it be?
$4.50 each.
Thank you.
One more life-threatening episode that I'm dealing with. I'm here now providing the essentials that people need to go on with their daily lives through this crisis. Disinfectant, face masks, nylon gloves, hand cleaner, all of the things that we need in order not to be killed by this invisible enemy of ours that we're all fighting today, the COVID-19 pandemic. This last year, I got a most interesting telephone call from one of my former classmates, fellas that I really don't see all that much of. I mean, let's face it, it's been 50 years. And they asked if I would mind receiving an award for community service for being the only business that has stayed stable in Prospect Heights for the past 1/2 century. I get a lot of letters. Which letter was yours? The pail has to have a flat edge where most pails are round. Let me get you the screws that you'll use for that.
But these anchors will be good, right?
No, they'll be perfect. You can have that as a gift. I can. I know the guy that owns this joint. He's not so bad. Look, let's face it. I'm just a retail clerk here, but I have stayed here for all of those years through all of the turmoil that has taken place in that roughly 1/2 century of time, that I'm still here right now dealing with a new crisis. I'm writing a book about my experiences here, both good and bad, the blackouts that I've seen, the race riots that I've seen, all of the trauma that I've seen here. It's unbelievable. This is my story. It's one of survival, tenacity, neighborhood degeneration, and regentrification. It's a story of a post-World War II Brooklyn and a kid who grew into a man that helped shape a neighborhood into what it is today. The title is Alive by Accident. My neighbors have been shot dead. I have not, and that's purely by accident. As I'm approaching retirement, I know that when I leave this, it will no longer be a hardware store. I know that when I sell this property, it'll be raised, which is a strange word for me to understand because it's being knocked down, not raised up. It's going to be leveled. Apartment houses will take its place. It'll be multi-stories. There'll be many families living here. I won't be here. I want to leave a legacy behind. This book will be my legacy.
Bravo. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Ian Phillips. Ian Phillips, NYC's own filmmaker. Thank you. Thank you so much. This concludes our performances. However, we do have a question and answer segment in about a minute. I just want to take this moment to acknowledge all of the artists. Thank you for your contribution, all of your hard work. David Temple, Lindell Brookhouse-Gill, Angel Hogan, Ian Phillips, Lou Brown. Lou Brown is manning the board, the soundboard and video. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of your contributions. If you have not subscribed yet, by all means, please subscribe. We'd love everybody to subscribe. This way, you can be kept up to date with the goings on of NOW Music and Arts and videos and whatnot. The next NOW event is on November 21st, and that's featuring Jovianney Emmanuel Cruz, the concert pianist, critically acclaimed concert pianist from the Philippines. So we will be broadcasting him that same day, Saturday, same bat time at 5:30. So please subscribe. That way, you know what's up, and you'll just be reminded. Just one more thing. As Lou reels plays our reel here, I'd like to thank the donors, those who have given generously to help keep our lights on, as it were. We appreciate your contribution. I encourage everyone who is viewing this presentation. This is truly a unique presentation. We provide this diverse so we encourage you, by all means, to donate. You can donate to a couple of places, or one of the couple. One is www.nowmusicarts.com. We also have a GoFundMe campaign. That's gofundme.com there /f/now-music Venmo account. I promise I will share to @Raul-Quines. Thank you so much. I also want to say that you don't see much of this on the news. The Metropolitan Opera is closed for the entire season. Their next anticipated date of reopening is in September of 2021. That goes for the Chicago Lyric Opera, and the list goes on and on. And so what this means is that the musicians, the stage crew, all the ones, at hands to make such productions happen, are out of work. And this is really huge. And I just want to make you aware of this. Now, we are not making a big protest causing trouble, but boy, our community is in dire need, in a dire situation. So until we get shut down or we can no longer provide entertainment, we will do the best that we can to continue to provide entertainment and recruit artists. There are countless of wonderful artists, and we hope to engage with them and present to you more shows in the future. That said, we'll begin our question and answer. And I would like to actually start by asking the audience, what is art to you? What is art to you? Do you listen to the music when you're driving on your way to work? Do you play the guitar as a hobby? Are you a professional musician? What do you do when there's no music? Or do you frequent the galleries, or past tenses? With that, we begin Q&A. And we're off to a slow start.
I see Art is Life from Carmen.
Yes, expound on that, David. Hi, Carmen. Art is life. Yes. Art is, at least for me and most of us, all of us probably, artists, that is our bloodline. Um, I was curious about Ian's work for one. Um, it's a wonderful storytelling, and I just wanted to ask you if you can walk us through, like digging up, you know, historical um, our archives and putting the film together and how that all came about. I'm really curious about the just the process in general.
Yeah, so I no longer live in Prospect Heights, but I lived there for about 7 years. And I remember walking into this hardware store years ago and being struck with how charming this guy was. And then walking in there, during the COVID-19 pandemic, I had been thinking a lot about two things. One is obviously COVID-19, but the other one is just New York City gentrification in general. And then as I started to talk to this guy a little bit more, I realized that he was able to kind of give me both of these things that I was very, very interested in at the same time. I didn't know he had been there for so long. And I didn't realize that, I mean, I learned to realize how much he bore witness to the change of the neighborhood and also how this was such a pivotal time in his life as he was going from just a regular hardware store to almost an essential worker, right? So I thought that there's some his storytelling abilities mixed with the kind of, the sense of urgency that he was going through every single day, putting his own life on the line, his customers, fearing for their lives. I shot this thing in April so this was, anybody who's in New York City in April knows that stepping out of your apartment was like, it was almost like the day after 9/11 every day. You didn't know whether, you didn't know what was happening. There was such an ominous feeling. So I just thought, I might as well just try to do this now while he's going through this moment, because who knows how long this moment's going to last. And then as far as the archival stuff goes, that was the fun part for me, because I got to just kind of be an archaeologist and find whatever I could about the neighborhood that represented the themes that he was talking about. The opening piece was just kind of like a diamond in the rough that I found actually on the internet about this, this black and white film shot in my neighborhood in the 1950s. And it ends with nothing is ever added, but every year something is added, but nothing is ever taken away. And those are those moments you look for as a filmmaker where it's just like, this is too good to be true. I have to find a way to use this. So, it was a very fun process, put it that way. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ian. Lindell. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Lindell was in LA and she just moved back to the neighborhood here in New York City just a week ago or this past weekend. So how has your transition been?
Welcome back, Lindell.
Thank you so much. I actually just want to piggyback a little bit on Ian's, because when I saw his piece, it was like celebration, documentation, and a moment of detail of like a place in time. And that's sort of what I did in LA too. I felt that going to a neighborhood that was very interesting and different, it allowed me to look at it slightly differently than the locals around that didn't appreciate. Like when I sat up in the park, there were like the beautiful mountains and the palm trees. I mean, it was so gorgeous, right? And yet they had grown up there and spent their whole lives there, and it's almost like they didn't even see it, right? So for me as a painter to be able to go into a neighborhood and spend slightly less than a year kind of discovering, I was in and out because of COVID, but I was able to discover and just, like I said, ride slowly through the neighborhood, and just the alleys, they just look so different to me coming from New York, and the amount of space that was just like sort of abandoned, huge areas of space that was abandoned. I don't think I'm quite finished painting LA, because I'm fascinated, especially living in New York for so many years, the amount, like we really try to utilize our space as much as possible. And there's so many people that live here that every space is always being utilized in some way. And whereas in LA, there are like huge swaths of abandoned areas that I would like sort of love to somehow look at and investigate more. Transition, I think I'm really missing that really bright sun and sky, and especially because it's been sort of gray in New York the last week particularly. But right away I got back into the community in New York is fantastic. Like I just walking down the street the other day, and there's just so many different kinds of people here. Where I lived, it was principally Latino. It had a lot of different interesting, that neighborhood has a lot of interesting history. I did investigation on the history of that neighborhood. It went from, you know, really from indigenous people living there, then Spanish, then the, you know, then the, I would say, it was an early Black neighborhood, which was sort of very interesting. Then it became Japanese, then the internment, then it became Jewish. It was a very popular, big Jewish neighborhood. And then they all sort of moved to Hollywood, and then it became Latino, and now it's particularly Latino, and they're really like holding down to stop gentrification. And for me, it was just like, as a New Yorker, and again, referencing Ian's piece, you know, the guy was saying like it's changing all the time. That to me, Boyle Heights is just in the process of another change, and now it's becoming more gentrified because it's really close to the art district downtown. And it was, but right now I really like the way that the community, it's a really solid community. People are really connected and know each other, neighbors. It was very open in that way. People are a little more shy there. Being a New Yorker in LA was, I'd say, pretty much fun, you know. So, I mean, it's a very, very different place. And then I would say that also LA is where I was in LA was a very different place than how we think about LA. You know, we think about LA as Hollywood, and it is that. And I would say LA is run by that industry, but where I lived, it was very different. East LA is very, very different than, I would say, West LA and downtown. I hope that's a little bit of a more additional information to my experience there.
Yes, very cool.
Powerful for me.
Thank you, Lindell.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in LA, and that's actually where I met Lindell moons ago. So I do miss the tacos. LA has the best tacos, particularly from that region. We have a couple of questions. This one comes from Berto Mellon. I'm trying to figure out who to address this to, but the question is, what inspired you all to become artists, and why is art important to you? And maybe I would like to address that to David, because there is one other question for Angel.
Well, great. Yeah, I noticed that question and I liked it a lot. And, you know, and while I'm hearing, you know, a bit of a dialogue between Ian and Lindell, you know, sort of in art forms that I'm not as involved with, where, you know, the whole goal is to get it to be viewed and to interact with, you know, a specific neighborhood. And whereas, you know, composing music on a solo instrument, you know, you're sort of in your own world. But luckily, I've been performing enough. Honestly, it's been hard, obviously, in the last 6-7 months, that I really came to the conclusion long ago that a piece of music doesn't really even exist until you start sharing it with other people. It's not until like you feel that connection. And I think, you know, that's part of our frustration, is to find these new channels of communication, because, you know, art, I think we're surrounded by art, but until we stop and see it and share it, etc., it's I don't know what you want to call it. It's just, you know, life or whatever. And so in any event, there's sort of like the work I do in the lab, more or less, which is, the practicing technique and repertoire, and even the tinkering of the nuts and bolts of writing a composition. All the while, all that stuff is good, but until, you share it in, somehow with another person, it's not just what feedback you get afterward, but you can actually feel the interaction, when you're in the same room. And it's really powerful, and suddenly you go, oh, there's parts in this piece that I didn't even think of it that way. But now that it's communicating with somebody else, it's like you suddenly see all the colors of it. And so in any event, I think we're all sort of involved with the work in the lab, but then there's where art actually happens, and it is in the public, and it is a mode of communication, and so many other things. We could list 1,000 things that it is, but definitely there's two places where it's born, and then where it connects, and shades of gray in between, and so it's really exciting. So why I'm an artist, I think best when somebody said art is life. I think that's what we do in general. What we kind of tinker in public with, and then in private with, and then how do we connect with the world via this sort of, we've essentially came up with a new form of communication in some way each time we create a new work, etc. So anyway, I just feel so fortunate. I'm so grateful, Raul. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think it's our pleasure. It's more like it. Thank you. Does anybody want to add to that question? Okay, let's present this question for Angel. This comes from Ebony Malaika Collier. How did you choose the subject matter for your novella?
Oh, it's a great question. And I think it's Ebony Malaika Collier, and Malaika meaning black angel. The word Malaika is black angel. So what a beautiful name, and what a gorgeous name that Ebony has. So in thinking, I'm a writer. I write about all things at all times, and most recently, I've been thinking a lot about wanting to be more explicit about writing about Black love, Black lives, and Black joy, because it's not something that we see in media. It's not something that that is offered to us. And so one thing I wanted to even like this idea of an elderly gay Black man. Oh, that's unheard of, right? Because gay men are just white guys, right? The history of Black people, especially gay Black people, has been erased. It was Black drag queens that started the big sort of revolution in New York. So yeah, I wanted to talk about Black joy, Black glory, and Black love, and in a different way. There are gay Black men, and they love, and they're old, they get old too, and they're not seen in the same way in our society, as many Black people are mostly invisible. So, I think my job, and I take it on gladly as a writer, is to talk honestly about my own experiences and what I see and what I know, and what may not be known by a lot of people, but it's here, you know? Everyone listens to Black music. Everyone is joyous. Everyone wants to dance to Black music and Black art, but nobody really wants to know about Black lives. So I'm here to tell you, Black lives matter. Black lives are beautiful, and Black joy exists.
Right on.
And this is one small way. Clark is 80 years old and falling in love again. A Black man falling in love at 80. Thank you, Ebony Maleka, for that question.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Colorful love. That's where I want to go. Never too late.
Never too late.
Yes. Let's love one another while we're on that topic. One question from Orlando for David. How was your teaching experience? I guess that maybe Orlando's referring to the current time.
Oh, it's your teaching experience. Oh, it's it's been fantastic. Actually, I had a connection with Angel in that I spent about 10 years in Philly, and that really kind of kicked off my guitar teaching career. I worked through the Friends Central system and also a small private school on like 25th and South, which was the Philadelphia school, and very innovative small school. And it's just fantastic. I actually, a very young student from Philly came back to me in his mid-20s and was just sort of on a mission to thank those that helped him along the way. And he's just one of the finest musicians I've ever seen. And he lives in Europe now and does so fantastic. And so, I have more, it's nice to have had, some time with teaching long enough to see some people blossom. I had a student who was studying through me in Bard Prep who went on to be a classical guitar major at Ithaca College and ended up studying with a guy that I knew in Philly. And so there's all these inner cross connections. And I can't imagine my career without the connection, not just with young people. I have students that are much older, and it's just for them it's so meaningful in a much quieter way, and so anyway, it's the old Socratic idea that it's really the student that is the teacher at the end of the day, and so again, I feel grateful for all the teaching opportunities I've had as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you still taking students?
I have room for one more. I've got plenty of room. Always, always.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, any other questions? Any other questions? Lou, are you available? I would like to ask you.
I am here, yes.
Excellent. Welcome.
Hello.
Now, you've just recently started getting work as far as recording goes. But for a while, many months, 6 months, probably, I guess, right? There was no work to be had. And I don't even know how to present this question. I mean, so how are these opportunities being presented, and what what is and do you have more gigs ahead, I suppose? Just anticipating what might be paved down the road in the near future.
Yeah, I think some people are, there's always different reasons, but there are some opportunities that people want to get out recordings for, whether it for a conductor or for some type of purpose. But more than that, I think people are anxious to maybe have some of the repertoire that they worked on during this quarantine, get it recorded, and then have it in their pocket. So when the opportunities do arise again, they'll have them. They'll have, they'll have fresh performances of themselves. Current things that they did because they've. Some people have, had some time to learn some repertoire and they want to move on, and some want it for website content to see what they're going to do with it, maybe virtually, because right now the stages are closed. So, but there are becoming, especially, at, strange to say, but out of this country, there seems to be more inventive ways, or even out of this city, there seem to be some more inventive ways that people are doing performances and keeping some kind of stage going, whether it be, in cars, in movie, in drive-in movie theaters, anything like that, baseball stadiums while things are open, or anything virtually. Outside of New York City, I'm not seeing a lot of the opportunities, but these people are finding them. So I'm recording them. That's just, so now I do have some things coming up as well. And, I'll just, I'll help out when I can, because it's we got to keep the ball rolling with everything, of course, as best as we can. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Lou.
You're welcome.
Thank you. There's a question from SG Betancourt. How is the current pandemic and politics affecting your work? We try not to involve ourselves in politics, but if I can just answer what's happened in the past 7 months for us artists, is that our world has been turned upside down. Most of us, probably 95% of us, are out of work. So we're finding it extremely difficult. I am finding myself extremely difficult to stay positive, for one, as much as I've enjoyed and continue to enjoy, building what we started as a collective of artists to play for one another, because that is the only time really our art is born, as David had mentioned earlier. Otherwise, our art is silent. So this is definitely a good time for us to express ourselves in our art. And one thing I'm seeing is that our works are going through a metamorphosis, changing faces, changing moods, and well, it is art. It is the situation in which we are in, and thankfully we are in the United States of America, where we can freely express ourselves and not be shot for protesting in our artwork or whatnot. So it is a privilege. We have a lot of privileges here in the United States of America. I come from the Philippines. I was born there, and it is a third world country. It's very different in how people are treated. So we have it a lot easier here. I don't want to get into the politics at all, but if anyone wants to add anything about the effect of the pandemic, by all means, please do so. I mean, just the bottom line is we are bleeding, continually bleeding. So please, okay, here's a political pitch. Talk to your local civil servants. Help the music and arts community. That's my plea, please. Thank you. Anybody want to jump on that?
Well, might as well.
Yes.
Sorry, my video's not in, but I'll say that, there's a ripple effect. I mean, some people will say that they don't like, they don't like the orchestra, they don't like opera, they don't like film, they're they're not into plays, but you know what? They don't like classical guitar, or they don't like a lot of things, but it has a ripple effect because all those things support restaurants and planes and hotels, and it's not just about this thing that it's like, well, that's something extra. We don't really need that. It's not a necessity. We don't need the arts. And unlike some other things, when people in the arts, and that's what this platform is good for, at the very least, it helps people keep in shape. Because if there's no platforms or any place to perform, the artists and the musicians, if there's no platform to express yourself, then it will get sloppy. It's not just about finding something else to do. It is what we do. So the art, many other things that have monetary goals written all over them don't appreciate the arts until they're gone, and when they're not there. And we're gonna see that ripple effect as we get into the holiday season. The joy of gifts and all the lights, or whatever you celebrate at that time of the year. Without the groups of people, without the concerts, without all the visual arts that occur with it, it's going to be very, very different, and people are going to value it more, I think, in the end. So that's what I have to say for now. There's more, but
Yeah, and it's really important that we keep the engine rolling. I mean, our Guitar Society, we actually went ahead and put our concert on a private Woodstock stage, but it wasn't open to the public. It was just for our small community, and we were able to distance and do all the right things in that setting. But for us, it was still a success, even though we couldn't really reach out to the community. We had the sounds and sights of Woodstock around us. We were there. Okay, it wasn't an open concert, but nonetheless, we are doing our thing, and it's not reaching as many ears right now, but it will. And so there is an end game, or a transition game, or some sort of game that's not this game at some point, hopefully very soon. So we just again, I keep saying grateful, but just that a venue like this, where we have a chance to move past our own very small world. So
Well said. And I also, just putting my gallery, my exhibit in my front yard. I mean, there was no place to show it, and people wanted to see it, and it built momentum. And then and also I want to say things are starting in the arts to open up a little bit. I've been to 2 openings, and I'm in a group show tomorrow in Harlem. It's at 1608 Amsterdam Avenue. It's a Lula Day show. It is a political piece. I once in a while I do political pieces, and it is a very political piece, couple of very political pieces, and the show is fantastic. So if people get a chance, it's the Amsterdam Collective Casa de Cultura. It's on Amsterdam and 140th Street in Harlem tomorrow from 2 to 7. Limited capacity, they do like let 10 people in, but things are starting to open up a little bit. But I really feel for theater. I mean, imagine theater and all the different people that are not working. And as Lou said, the ripple effect of all of the people who clean the floors, the people who, ushers, ticket people, just everybody's they're holding on by their strings to get through this. So really feel for the theater.
And not to mention, I mean, a pandemic has made us feel close to, needing food and basic essentials, but, that's part of what people do after they've accomplished things. They go to experience art, they go to a show, they see paintings, they go to a movie, they hear poetry, you know, whatever you like. I mean, that's the beauty of it, and we all do it in with a community. But now community is kind of shut down, so it's going to be it's going to be challenging, and I think the word is momentum, and I think the word is also diligence. And you know, it's not a political statement. I think after the election is over, you know, I think some things will start to work out, because a lot of people are just waiting, you know, waiting right now. You know, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Well, I guess that's a big one, to see what happens. So when it's over, you know, but it'll, I always think that, you know, when things are down, you know, the arts, it's time to express something. That's when people are really listening. And unfortunately, with this particular pandemic, people can't get together with each other. And that's an essential part of the arts community, getting together. But we can do it with this type of platform. We can get together, you know, and it's important. Yeah.
I agree. Anybody else? Anybody want to add? I totally agree. Well, I guess I just want to add a little bit to that. We hope to continue making our art and presenting them to you here at NOW Music and Arts on a monthly basis, and see how this thing takes off. There are a lot of possibilities that have presented themselves. They seem to be endless, you know, while in lockdown, you know, the mad scientists at work, like, oh, we can do this. Oh, let me try this. So I look forward to seeing how these new ideas flesh out, and perhaps, you know, our presentation before you will happen more often than once a month. That would be great. And if you want to hop on board as an artist, we can certainly talk about that. If you want to volunteer, we can certainly talk about that. You know, I am looking for help desperately to help this keep running, you know, running on that momentum. And so we look forward to the next presentation. Again, Jovianney Emmanuel Cruz, critically acclaimed pianist from the Philippines, will open up our concert series on November 21st. On December 19th is our holiday festival, which is still in the works. And hopefully we can recruit more musicians and artists to put something really lively, cheerful for our community. And we hope that you will join us then as well. Let me just check if there's any more. No more questions. Yay. Again, thank you to everyone. Feel free to unmute yourselves. Thank you. Wonderful work. Thank you for all your.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. This was so wonderful.
The great artist, by the way, all your work. I super loved everything.
I'm so appreciative of the artists in this room.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Me too. Me too.
Each of you, Ian, David, Lou, Raul, Lindell.
Yep.
Thank you.
Angel.
Equal.
Excellent.
Raul and Lou, thank you for being so organized and making this happen. Appreciate it.
And yeah,
Welcome.
thank you for pulling this together.
Thank you. Thank you all. We couldn't do it without the content, obviously. Thank you.
All right. Good night, y'all. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you so much. Next round.